And the Bucs hope that this will be their first victory ever.
We have a great area, a growing area, in Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Sarasota, Bradenton, Lakeland, and Winnehaven, and even Wachoo. Over 2 million fans, and it's the fastest growing area in the United States.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, live from Tampa Stadium. For the first time ever in a regular season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers entered the stadium with numbers in both the win and loss columns. The Buccaneers came onto the field to a wild standing ovation from the some 60,000-plus fans at Tampa Stadium. They did not introduce any players individually. The PA announcer said, "Ladies and gentlemen, your Tampa Bay Buccaneers."
Welcome to San Diego, California, Super Bowl 37. It is Tampa Bay versus the Oakland Raiders.
Third down, 18, dropping Gannon, looking, throws up in the head, intercepted, at the 40, Derek Brooks 30, Brooks to the 25, 20, Derek Brooks all the way, there it is, the dagger's in, we're going to win the Super Bowl.
Tom Brady signing with the Tampa Bay Bucs tomorrow. Holy hell.
Everyone always says, why the Bucs, man? Why do you choose the Bucs? And it was a no-brainer.
Brady has all kinds of time, throws toward the end zone. It is a caught ball. Touchdown, Tampa Bay, Mike Evans. 8 seconds, 7 seconds. Brady to throw, throws a deep pass downfield. Got Scotty Miller in the open, makes the catch. Touchdown, Tampa Bay.
Super Bowl 55 will be underway at Raymond James Stadium. Here's the snap out of the gun. Play action fake pass to Gronkowski. He's going to score a touchdown. Touchdown Tampa Bay. Holy guacamole. Bucs are the Super Bowl champs. They can't stop the clock. And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
On 3rd and 3, they protect Brady. Scans the field and lets it fly. It's Evans. It's a touchdown.
This is the Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty. Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Mike Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
41-31, your final score on Sunday Night Football in Week 4. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers fall to 2-2 on the year after a disappointing performance from the Bucs defense, which has been stellar to start the season. We'll talk about that and much more. Welcome back to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast, live on YouTube tonight following the game. I am your host, as always, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me, my good buddy and co-host, the Philly Bucs fan himself from BucsNation.com, Mr. Evan Wanish. I miss Bruce Arians. What did we just watch, Evan?
It's good to be here. What's not good, though, was the Buccaneers defense tonight. That was one of the worst performances I think they've had. And really, what it reminded me of when I was watching it wasn't necessarily the way the Chiefs play offense. Normally against this team, they take a lot of downfield shots, and I know the loss of Tyreek Hill really changes things. But it reminded me a lot of, it reminded me a lot of when they play the LA Rams. A lot of quick stuff. The Bucs have struggled getting pressure. There's a lot of guys open, a lot of scheming to get guys open, some trickery and stuff, and it really was frustrating, I think, and it started basically right away. But that touchdown, and we'll get into all of it. Trust me, we will get into all of it. But that touchdown to start, I didn't really pin that on the defense. That's tough. The Chiefs' offense is one of the best in the NFL, and you start the game thinking that you're going to start with the ball, and all of a sudden you're on the 20-yard line against Patrick Mahomes. But the rest of the night was just, and like I said, we'll get into it more in depth, but the rest of the night was just inexcusable. And the game plan, it felt like Todd Bowles thought the Chiefs still had Tyreek Hill, and they were just going to roll in there with the same game plan that they had in the Super Bowl. And that's not going to work. The Chiefs are too good. They evolve too much, and that's the result you're going to get.
I mean, let's talk about the first 6 seconds of the game because that's all it took to cough up the ball. The Buccaneers lost the turnover battle and had to dig themselves out of a hole for the rest of the night. Luckily, the offense was up to par. We'll talk about that here in a minute, too. But yeah, you really can't blame that first touchdown on the defense. It's 6 seconds. Rachaad White fumbles on the opening kickoff, and you spot him a touchdown, and you have to dig yourself out of a hole. And when you're playing a team that is clearly going to be an elite offense down the stretch with Pat Mahomes under center, you cannot just spot them touchdowns and expect to dig your way out of that. It almost felt like it did when they played Kansas City in the regular season all the way back in 2020. I know it's crazy that it's 2 years ago now, but you just cannot expect to play a team like that. I thought the Bucs played soft. I thought Kansas City was obviously the better team. Everyone's going to say that now. But all night long, all night long on the defense, at least, aside from the spotted touchdown at the beginning of the game, it really felt like they couldn't stop anything. You got to give Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes props for the offensive game plan. A lot of quick passes, taking advantage of the soft coverage that Todd Bowles had those DBs in. Not a lot of adjustments made at the half, and they continue to do their thing. I mean, they put out a short passing game clinic, and they weren't just passing the ball. They were running the hell out of it, too.
Yeah. And, I expressed concerns over the running defense. Right. I expressed a lot of concerns over the running defense. Look, and after a loss, people go to extremes. And I say a lot on this show, and I obviously haven't really said it at all this year, but I've said in the past that people get too high on the wins and they get too low on the losses. Like you got to find a medium in there with both. There's negatives in wins and there's positives in losses. And it's not the end of the world. Look, was this the Super Bowl? No. Was this to get into the playoffs? No. It's a week 4 ball game, and yeah, your defense sucked. But you got to put it past you. And does this mean the Bucs defense is terrible? No, I still think the Bucs defense is very good. They ran into a Kansas City offense that was better prepared, and quite frankly has a lot of talent. And they have probably the best quarterback still in the NFL. That's going to happen. And now, I mean, there's some things that can happen. For instance, like I said about the run defense, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 19 attempts for 92 yards and a touchdown. Isaiah Pacheco, 11 attempts, 63 yards. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire was averaging 4.8 yards a carry, and Pacheco was 5.7 yards a carry. That sucks. And we can no longer say, the run defense is just, it's just getting going. No, the run defense isn't good. The Bucs run defense is no longer what it used to be. And that was clear tonight. I mean, the Chiefs were getting at will, not only the short passing game, but why the short passing game worked? Because they didn't have to go down the field, because on first and second down, they would run it for 7-8 yards every single time. And that's not the way that you want to play defense, especially against this Kansas City offense. So the Bucs front four against the run really failed them. They failed to get consistent pressure, and they also failed to stop the run. And that's, to me, on the defensive side of the ball, that's where it begins, right there in the trenches.
3 sacks on the night for Tampa Bay. Mike Edwards, the safety, was able to get back there. Carl Nassib had another one, and Anthony Nelson, too little too late.
Well, and basically 2, because the Carl Nassib one was right at the end of the half.
Okay.
Just on that Hail Mary. But, I mean, you didn't get any pressure in the first half at all. And part of that was due to the Kansas City game plan of getting the ball out quick. Like, it's only so much your rushers can do. But Shaq Barrett talked a big game this week about how he thought they could dominate this matchup. Well, you just got dominated yourself. So you got to look in the mirror. That's on you. You can't go out saying that stuff and then get dominated like that. So you got to back it up. And nobody on the Bucs defense did. I can't really tell you one player that played really good. Vita Vea, I mean, he's a ghost. I don't know who this player is, but it's not the player that we've seen in Tampa Bay the previous 4 years. It's just, I don't know who this is, but he is not himself. I don't know if he's injured or not. He's not showing up on the injury report at all, but I'm seeing a guy who just sometimes, not every play, but sometimes lacks effort. I mean, sometimes like the effort just doesn't seem like it's there. And when he's a key piece of your defense and stopping that run, he needs to be better. I mean, and he just got that contract extension. You need to be better now. Like it's year 5. It's time to take off the training wheels. You need to be better and you need to step up.
Despite leading for the entire game, Kansas City and their offense were no strangers to passing the ball. 37 passing attempts for Pat Mahomes tonight. He completes 23 of those for 249 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. You'll never guess who had that interception late in the game. It was garbage time, but was it his first defensive snap of the year that Sean Murphy-Bunting gets the takeaway?
It wasn't his first snap of the year. He had actually, I noticed him. It was even, I think, before Carlton Davis got a little banged up. He was in for a play or two, and I was like, oh, there he is. Because Logan Ryan got banged up. I don't think Logan Ryan came back, but yeah, Sean Murphy-Bunting. And now I see we have James Hill, Mr. Bucks Nation's audience in here. So shout out to you guys. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Like I said, yeah, appreciate all the support. So yeah, Sean Murphy-Bunting, man. He whiffed on a tackle. That was a good game for the Chiefs. But then he comes back and Mahomes throws a really ill-advised pass, and he took advantage. As we have a 2-hour super chat from the crazy Shank. Shank's back. All right. Sounds good. Thank you, Shank. So yeah, thanks for the super chat. And I just think, Sean Murphy-Bunting is still, he was sitting on the bench for a reason. He was riding the pine for a reason, folks. Like, this interception doesn't change, what I think he could be. But it's nice to see. Sure, it's nice to get a turnover because they were, the Bucs were losing the turnover battle and they still lost it, but it was nice to get one at least.
Now, I know we talked a lot about the lack of pressure in the first half, but when we talk about the demise of this Buccaneers defense this week in particular, what are you looking at? I know guys like Carlton Davis left the game. He had that stinger later on. We talked about the departure of Logan Ryan. That was early, I think, end of the first quarter, definitely in the first half at some point. He ended up leaving this game as well. So, what do you say is the biggest culprit? Was it just a bad game plan? Was it lack of pressure? Was it execution? Was it a perfect recipe of all of those things? What would you say is the biggest reason the defense got exposed the way that they did this week?
Yeah, real quick, Anna Weezy's World with a $2 super chat said Julio needs to go. Y'all thoughts? We'll get into the offense and everything, but I don't know why Julio Jones would need to be cut. He was real. I think the Bucs.
I'm not nearly as disappointed with anyone on the offense tonight as I am with the defense. I know that
we'll get into it.
We'll get into it. I promise you, we will address that here shortly. But yeah, back to the defense real quick.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think it starts with the front four. It really does. They set the tone and they got dominated tonight. I thought the linebackers were okay. Travis Kelce's a tough cover for anybody. I don't care who you are. And Levante David, tried. You tried, but there was a lot of mismatches, and the Chiefs were able to scheme that way. Travis Kelce against Levante David is a mismatch, and Devin White, I thought he had a pretty poor game, and I thought the secondary played okay. I don't think there wasn't oh my god, this guy got burned, this guy got cooked. No, there wasn't really a lot of that because the Chiefs schemed them open.
It just felt soft. It felt soft. If we talk about the eye test, you talked about the run game for Kansas City and their success on those early downs, first and second down, picking up 7, 8, 9 yards at a time. That's going to pay dividends. And that's exactly why this run defense was so bad tonight. But with guys like Devin White talking a big game every single week and then whiffing tackles, with all due respect to Devin White, he led the team in tackles tonight, 9 total tackles, 2 assists. But you got to be better. You cannot let them manhandle you like that. And that was at every level on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah. And yeah, like you said, I agree. And the only thing is, I will say, them playing soft, that has more to do with the scheme. That has more to do with coaching. I don't think it's necessarily their choice to, I'm sure a lot of guys would prefer to, bump and run with them. But I just think that, the scheme, Todd Bowles got out-coached on the defensive side of the ball. And I think those are the two reasons. Todd Bowles got out-coached on the defensive side of the ball. and the front four just could not set any sort of tone. They couldn't keep the Chiefs one-dimensional because they couldn't stop the run, and then they also couldn't get pressure against Mahomes to force him into some errant throws or sacks to get in a better field position or turnovers. They couldn't. They really could not do anything. And no, MK, I believe Mikey. I don't believe the Bucs are going to be signing Chris Baker. I know that I said they need some front four, need to be better on the front four, but I don't know if Chris Baker and the palm trees in Tampa could handle.
I don't know if Jason Light wants to make that mistake again. You had just talked about the lack of, keeping Pat Mahomes under wraps, and he's the type of guy where, yeah, he can throw on you, and that's what he did, but he can also run, and he did that pretty well tonight as well when he needed to. 4 carries, 34 yards to the tune of 8.5 yards per carry. So safe to say when he had to tuck and run, he was able to do so, unlike Super Bowl 55. Now, let's take a look at the other side of the football. I know we had mentioned Carlton Davis and Logan Ryan. We will get more updates on those guys throughout the week. As of right now, we just know that they left the game. If we get any more information between now and the end of the podcast, of course we will let you know. But I feel like that's everything that needs to be said about the defense. I mean, Todd Bowles just got outcoached. The adjustments they made at the half, even though it didn't look like there were many, they were not good enough. And
a lot of the times the Chiefs screwing up is what stopped the Chiefs.
Right. Bucs,
they had a 4th and 1. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was wide open and dropped the ball.
No reason he should have dropped that.
Yeah, like he dropped the ball, The Chiefs had a few drops tonight. It wasn't just one or two. They had a few drops that, like, that's the only reason that the Bucs were there was very little resistance. And real quick before we move on to the offense, a few things. Keith Johnson said Akeem Hicks, what's the point of him? If you're wondering, like, if he didn't play or anything, he didn't. He's hurt. So that's why you didn't hear his name much, because he was never out there. And then a few folks are talking about Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. Look, I think you need to have patience, especially with pass rushers. This is Joe Tryon-Shoyinka's second year. And this is his first full year as a starter. So I don't think it's fair to judge him right now. He flashed a lot, and like when I turn on the tape, he flashes consistently. But he needs to turn him into sacks more often, for sure. But I'm also not ready to give up on a guy who, like I said, is starting really for the first year, and it's only his second year. So David Cardona, real quick, I know we got to move on the offense, but David Cardona has a question for Coach Wanish. So he said, Coach Wanish, are you gonna talk to Villa about his lack of dominance with relative ease? Well, Villa is a key part of this team, and we'll sit down and have that conversation. But I know he's going to be doing the right things. He's a pro's pro, and he knows what to do. He knows he's a big part of our defense, and we expect him to be that moving forward.
Really quick before we talk about the offense, one more chat message from Don Harvey here, setting everybody straight. He says, we just ran the gauntlet and came out 2-2. Great job,
Which
Bucs.
Is what you and I both predicted.
Apparently so did Don Harvey. He says, in all capital letters, stop crying. We were never going to be 17-0. And yes, I think at some point in every single football season, there's going to be a healthy dose of reality that kicks in for a lot of people who have unrealistic expectations for a Tom Brady-led football team. And this may or may not be the day of reckoning for some of those people rooting for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this season. But the fact of the matter is, you and I both predicted the Bucs to come out of this 2-2. And no, this isn't about me beating my chest because we're correct on our season predictions so far. It's just, I think perspective here is important, because when you look ahead at Tampa Bay's schedule, they've got some very, very winnable games. You've got a division opponent who looks pretty weak next week in Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken. Following that, you've got a couple of other opponents. I think Pittsburgh on the road, and then you play Carolina for the first time this season. Some pretty winnable games. The Bucs could go out and stack some wins up here over the next 3-4 weeks.
That Atlanta game is interesting. Atlanta won today. They are 2-2, just like the Buccaneers. So the winner of that game next week will be in the lead for the NFC South.
Isn't that just like we all predicted?
Yeah. I mean, Bucs and Falcons. We all knew that. Yeah, those were the two teams. But yeah, that's an interesting game. Obviously, we'll get there when we get there. But obviously it has to be better. It really does have to be better. And I mean, and we're talking about individual players. You're talking about Tryon-Shoyinka and everything, but the whole defense as a whole has to be better. And I think the reason why Bucs fans have a reaction to losses like this, and I think the more frustrating thing, we weren't the only ones, right? Us, we weren't the only ones to have them going 2-2. There was a lot of people that said these first 4 games, man, like holy smokes, like that is a gauntlet. But I think when you start 2-0, losing 2 straight to go 2-2, that's what stings. Because I think most of us had the Bucs starting 1-1, and most of us had the Bucs beating Dallas, but then not being able to escape their demons in New Orleans. They were able to do that. So when they were able to do that, you're looking at, you're looking at a team that's 2-0 and has a real shot to maybe 3-1 or even 4-0. The Packers didn't look dominant. The Chiefs looked good, but they didn't look dominant. And I think that's what hurts, I think, people the most, is that it's 2-2, fine. If you told people they're 2-2, I think they would be okay with it. But it's the 2 straight thing. And Sean brings it up as well in the chat. It's 2 home games. You're 0-2 on the road at home now. That's what hurts. And I think that's why a lot of people are frustrated, because now I feel like if they would have won last week, I feel like, yes, there's a lot of frustration tonight, but I feel like going 3-1, people would be like, yeah, they lost, they got their butts kicked, but they're 3-1. And instead, it's not the case.
Right. And I mean, this is a team that has a reputation for playing well at home. I believe in 2021, they only lost 1 game at home the entire season, and that was that home loss against New Orleans, 9-0. And then, of course, the divisional round loss in the playoffs. But on top of that, you look at the teams that they've lost to at this point in the season, and you look at where they're going to be at the end of the regular season. The Green Bay Packers could very well be competing for the 1 seed for another season in a row. The Kansas City Chiefs could very well have the best quarterback in the AFC. I think that was on display today.
I think they do.
You know what I mean? I know Buffalo was able to make the comeback, but they were down. They looked out. Josh Allen is still going to do Josh Allen things, but Pat Mahomes, I mean, there is never a doubt. I don't know why there seems to be a slump every single season where people just kind of get heavy on doubting Pat Mahomes, but like we've known that this is what this guy is capable of. And Kansas City was the better team tonight. You look back last Sunday, you look at all the mistakes that Tampa Bay made. Green Bay was the better team last week. And the fact of the matter is, they lost to 2 really good teams in the NFL. Winning in the NFL is hard enough.
With 2 really, really good quarterbacks.
Right. I mean, Pat Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers are 2 of the best in the league that you're going to see. So it's easy to overreact and say that, the Bucs crumble whenever they face a good quarterback.
That doesn't make it okay.
It doesn't make it okay, but they held Aaron Rodgers and the Packers to 14 points last week.
Yeah.
They didn't do it tonight against Pat Mahomes in Kansas City, but that's an offense that coming into this game, we almost had this expectation that, like, yeah, they're going to put up some extra points on you that maybe these other teams won't be able to.
Yeah, I mean, I predicted it on the page. I predicted 28 points for the Chiefs. I predicted the Chiefs 28-20 victory, and people said the Chiefs aren't putting up 28 on this defense. So I am kind of glad that the defense sort of got whooped like this, because I think it's good for the defense to, sort of humble themselves a little bit. But I also think it's good for some of the people in the fan base to kind of, let's have the expectations to a realistic thing. The defense, I think, is very good. They're not the best in the NFL. And I think there's a medium there. Again, it's just like the too high on wins, too low on losses thing. There's a medium there. So, I think the defense is really good. They're not, and like I said, this Kansas City offense, you're right? Like, yeah, it's against 2 really good teams, but look, these are the teams you're going to have to beat. If you want to win a Super Bowl, you're going to have to beat the Packers or the Rams or the Eagles, right? Like, to get out of the NFC, like, you're going to have to beat one of those teams. You're not going through the NFC without playing one of those teams. You're going to beat one of them. And they all, the Packers still look pretty good. The Rams seem to be picking up a little bit of steam after their opening night loss, and the Eagles are the only undefeated team left in the NFL. So you're going to have to beat one of those teams. In the Super Bowl, you may play the Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. You may play Josh Allen and the Bills. So, you're going to have to be better. We're not saying it's okay. We're just saying that, look, sometimes elite quarterbacks are going to do elite things, And sometimes there's nothing the defense can do about it. Sometimes there is. There was times tonight where the Bucs could have done a lot of things differently to slow down Mahomes. There was other times where you're like, okay, like, yeah, whatever.
I mean, the 1 yard shovel pass, several 1 yard shovel pass, especially the one at the goal line to the running back in the end zone. Like, what are you going to do?
The only thing you could have said was they could have had the sack.
Sure.
That's the only thing you could have said.
Sure. Yeah. But when you've got a guy who's capable of not only extending the play, but just making these ridiculous backyard football plays, he's the poster boy of the NFL once again. You've heard it all before. So that's the last we're going to mention it here.
And before we move on to the offense, I know we've been teasing this offense for a while, but the Chiefs took this personal. You can tell that this meant a lot to the Chiefs. Like, I think New Orleans in New Orleans meant a lot to the Bucs. I think this, and last week, I think that game meant a lot to Aaron Rodgers. I think this game meant a lot to Kansas City. It was clear that they've been dying for a chance to play Tampa Bay again. I mean, in the same stadium, they've been dying to play against Brady again. To me, it was clear that, like, they were hungry to do that. And I mean, like, the Bucs need to respond there, but the Chiefs just seemed like they were on a mission and they got the job done.
On the offensive side of the ball for Tampa Bay, it was one of their most productive games so far this season, passing the football. Why exactly was it one of their most productive games passing the football? Not only were they playing behind for 100% of the game, but Tom Brady went 39 for 52, 385 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. I believe he had the lost fumble. But
he had the lost fumble. Yep.
I mean, when you look at the run game, playing from behind is gonna factor into this as well. But the Buccaneers got 3 total yards of rushing offense between Rachaad White and Leonard Fournette, who both had 3 carries each. So for a lot of the people who have wanted the Bucs to abandon the run and start throwing the football, well, they did that this week. And I know that it's a hell of a lot harder to make this a competitive game when you're down 7-0 in the first 30 seconds of the contest. But I don't know. Like, Brady was Brady. He was great. He was good. He made all the passes he needed to. Some of the guys who showed up tonight catching the football, fresh off a suspension. Big number 13, Mike Evans, 8 catches, 103 yards, led the team. Also had 2 touchdowns. Chris Godwin, 7 catches, 59 yards in his return. Leonard Fournette also had 7 catches for 57 yards and a touchdown. Rachaad White got involved in the passing game. Maybe we can talk about this for a second. 5 catches, 40 yards for him. Cam Brate, who left the game with a concussion, 4 catches, 32 yards. The rookie Cade Otton at the tight end position, 3 catches, 29. Russell Gage, 2 catches for 24 yards. And shout out to big number 41, Keeft, with the circus catch for 19 yards. Couple of other catches. Julio Jones, Cole Beasley got involved. But, like, I really can't sit here and complain about anything that they didn't do on offense because they played the way that they needed to until the end. Were there a few mistakes? Yeah. But it's like, what did you expect them to do?
Yeah. Yeah, I just, and there was somebody in the chat that said Brady didn't play great. I don't know how you watch this game and come away from that with that take. But, yeah, he threw the ball 52 times, which I said wasn't really going to happen much. And most of the time it won't. I mean, it's crazy. The Bucs were literally down for all but 42 seconds or something, was it? That's how long it took the Chiefs to score, I think. That was the time that it was tied. That was it. Like, the Bucs never got anywhere close. So when that happens, you're going to throw the ball a lot. And I thought Brady played really well. I thought he gave him a chance. He kept him in it. The offensive line was a little bit shaky. I thought Luke Gedeke probably had his worst game as a pro. Tough assignment with Chris Jones for sure. But he had a brutal game. And I thought Brady was really good. I thought the offense looked good. But I mean, you come out after the Chiefs score a touchdown. And you move down the field with relative ease. But it reminded me of the first Green Bay drive, or the first drive against Green Bay. You move down the field with relative ease. Once you get past the 50, you run the ball on first down. It's a loss of 2. sets up a 2nd and 12, you end up kicking a field goal, but you can't convert a fourth. Like that kills you. Like it absolutely kills you. And you needed touchdowns in this matchup, not field goals. Field goals weren't going to win you anything in this matchup. So, and then the next drive, the Bucs punted. Like, that's 3 points and then a punt. That was it right there. Like, the Bucs offense almost needed to be perfect. And I know that's tough to ask of an offense, of an NFL offense, but the Bucs offense needed to be almost perfect. And they just weren't. And obviously the kickoff turnover, that's not on the Bucs offense at all. Like, obviously you can't pin that on them, but the one turnover, Brady just didn't see him. It's a bad read. Brady's got to recognize that blitz and get rid of the ball. But I just think that the Bucs, they tried to run the ball. Like they tried to
it's so funny because
run, but then they couldn't because they were down too much.
Right. It's so funny because a lot of people, I know early on in this game, were complaining, oh, here go the first down runs yet again. But the proof is in the pudding. I mean, 3 rushing attempts for Leonard Fournette. I know he had spoken about Rachaad White and some other guys picking up the slack, maybe taking off the workload for him, but 3 carries is not at all what I expected. But just like you said, when you're playing from behind the way that you are, it's really hard to get this offense rolling with anything else but throwing the ball, especially when you have guys like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, who were available and who were out there. It was good to see Chris Godwin find some production. I think a lot of people got worried when they saw him go down at the goal line later on in the game.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure what it was. I thought it was an upper body. It seemed like maybe it was his hip. Honestly, at first, it seemed like he got hit in the nuts. Honestly, but on the replay, it showed that it was maybe like something with the hip. But yeah, he walked off fine, and I was. And the next drive, he comes out there, he catches a screen pass and goes for 7 yards and gets hit. I was like, okay, yeah, he's good. But I thought the offense was good. Now, can the offense sustain throwing the ball 52 times? No. Like, even though we know that the Bucs offense's strength is throwing the ball, you're not, because throwing 52 times means you're down the whole time. Like that means you're down the entire game. So that's not sustainable. That also can get your quarterback hurt and get your receivers who have struggled to stay healthy hurt and get your offensive lineman hurt. So, and then, like the Chiefs blitzed Brady so much tonight because they knew they had to throw it. They knew that the Bucs had to throw it and they were just going to try and tee off on him. And the offensive line for that purpose, they did okay. But Brady also did a pretty good job of getting the ball out of his hands pretty quick and avoiding some rush. But I just, I was encouraged by what I saw with the offense. And what this confirmed to me was when this offense is healthy, right? When they have Mike Evans, when they have Chris Godwin, I think they limited Julio Jones tonight. Julio, I believe, caught 1 ball, but I didn't see him out there as much as I saw guys like Godwin and Gage and Evans. So I think they limited him a little bit. And when you have those guys and you have Donovan Smith back, who I thought Donovan Smith played pretty well tonight, didn't really hear his name at all. When you don't hear an offensive lineman's name, that's a good sign. Those guys, I think this offense is going to be fine. Like the offense is going to be fine. They put up 31 points. And I know, but it could be garbage time. Look, man, the Chiefs were still blitzing. Just like I mentioned, the Chiefs were still playing. So I'm encouraged by what I saw from this offense. It needs to get better, obviously. The turnover can't happen. And I think you need to start faster. That's for sure. But they finally scored a first half touchdown, which was, I guess, amazing, right? They not only just won, but we 2, right? So how about that? But it was the offense playing that way gave some fans hope. Oh, if the defense could get a stop, this offense can maybe get it done. And the Chiefs defense. One thing I will say about the Bucs offense, I know I've criticized Bowles' philosophy and some of the things Leftwich has done, but the Cowboys, Saints, and Packers, all 3 of them, I think, are pretty solid defenses. And the Bucs also weren't healthy, so they played a Chief defense who I think is an okay unit, and and they were finally healthy, so that's the result. Mr. Bucs Nation with a $2 super chat. Thank you very much, James. Get these boys to go to, I think, okay. If you guys send a super chat, can you spell right? get these boys to, I believe that's what that word is supposed to be, 4K subs, y'all. I appreciate it. And I'm not worried about the offense. And I wasn't worried about the offense before, but seeing this game really confirmed it for me that, like, I'm not worried about this. If they can stay healthy, I'm not worried about the production of this offense long term.
I'm not worried about the offense either. I kind of knew that this week was going to be the week that they figured it out, especially once you started to find out everyone who's going to be playing and who's feeling healthy again wants to be productive in this offense. You knew Brady would figure it out. He's always got the ball out quick. He's going to find the open guy. There are no concerns with Tom Brady finding his receivers. And especially this week when they were kind of forced to, kick it into high gear to really get the ball rolling, they were capable of doing it. I keep telling myself, man, this game would have been so much more competitive had they not just spotted the touchdown at the beginning of the game. And the hindsight's 2020. It is common sense. It is not breaking news that this game would have been closer had you not forfeited 7 points in 30 seconds. But I'm telling you, it would have changed the tone of the entire game. And maybe this offense would have felt like it had a little bit more time to figure it out. I mentioned it briefly before. I wanted to circle back. Let's talk about the running back position, especially catching the ball out of the backfield, which is something that we have been yearning for to see effectively done in Tampa Bay ever since Tom Brady arrived. 97 yards receiving from the running back position. That's obviously between Leonard Fournette and Rachaad White, but the production of Rachaad White, I mean, he is emerging, and I feel like, I'm not saying he's going to break out.
He got his first career rushing touchdown tonight.
He got his first career rushing touchdown. He basically put back the points that he gave up.
But that doesn't negate that.
It doesn't negate it. It doesn't forgive it. But what I'm saying is that what he saw tonight, you talked about the offense giving people hope. What I saw from Rachaad White tonight gives me hope that we can start to trust him a little bit more to get some more targets out of the backfield, because he was making it work.
And you know whose trust he's earned now? Tom Brady's. I think when you can catch the ball consistently, he looks like a natural pass catcher. He really does. He looked like a natural pass catcher. Now, the kickoff, I wouldn't have even sent him back out there for the kickoff.
I wouldn't have either. I wasn't. Listen,
you would have been done.
I don't want to be Mr. Hindsight all the time, but I was not a fan of Rachaad White at kick return all the way back in training camp. I made comments. I'm like, listen, this is kind of fun for the preseason, but let's not go ahead and do this come the regular season, because I do trust Jalen Darden. With all of that being said, a lot of people might think I sound crazy right now, but I trust Jalen Darden more as a returner than I do Rachaad White. I
want Rachaad White focusing on being an NFL running back.
I don't want him to get injured on a kick return. I don't want him out there. I just don't like it.
So I wouldn't have. He would have been yanked. If I were coaching, he wouldn't have gone. When he's like, oh, Rachaad White's back out there for the kickoff, I was like, all right, whatever, man. But in terms of the offense, White fit in pretty well, and a lot of people said Fournette got benched. Look, they've been playing Fournette a lot. They have been playing Fournette a lot.
85% of the offensive snaps in those first few games. That's a lot for a running back.
So, did he get benched? Maybe a little, but he also just needed a break, I think. I think it's just that simple. The 14 points, I think, by the turnovers. You take the Bucs lost by 10, gave away 14 on turnovers. And those 14 on turnovers, who knows? It was on a kickoff, or the offense didn't even receive the ball, and then the other one was on the first play of an offensive drive. What happens on those two drives? If you take away those 14 points for the Chiefs and you give the Bucs, let's say, a touchdown and a field goal, how different is this ball game? And I think it could be a lot different. We're not going to play the ifs and ands game all the time, but that's the facts, and James pointed out in the chat here as well that those two turnovers were huge. They were absolutely huge. The defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. That's correct. The offense didn't do quite enough in the beginning. That's correct. But 14 points off turnovers, that's your big story. That is your big story. And the offensive turnover, I can forgive a little bit. You should never be fumbling on a kickoff.
You
should never have, especially when you have the option to just let it go. Like, you should never be fumbling on a kickoff. That is inexcusable. And for that, moving on quickly to the special teams. If you have any more notes on offense, we can hit those. But the special teams gets an F from me. It's an automatic F. It has to be.
When you are so bad to just spot a team points, it's hard to forgive that, because there's not a lot you can do on special teams to make up for that, especially with Jake Camarda kind of having a rough night the way that he did.
Yeah, terrible. He was terrible. The 30-yard punt and then kicking the ball out of bounds, put at the 40-yard line. That's what might have gotten Bradley Pinion cut. Like, he did. No,
that's exactly what got Bradley Pinion cut.
He did that,
and he was getting paid 3 times as much.
Hey, People's Champ's coming to Tampa next week.
People's Champ, man, we need the reunion.
The return. Hey,
we've seen enough of this kid. He's cooked.
Just like the quarterback, or
we'll call him up next week. Have a little secret meeting. Bucs play Atlanta next week, so we'll try and make something happen.
Yeah, we'll try and get some info and pass it on to the old man Brady, huh? No, that can't happen. Especially, I mean, a team like the Chiefs. It's not like you're playing some scrub offense. I mean, you give the Chiefs 2 possessions to start at the 20-yard line. Like, come on, man. Like, yeah, they're turning that into 7. Like, that's 7. Like, they're gonna turn it into 7. And and then you give them the 40-yard line. Yeah, when you give them a shorter field, yeah, they're gonna make you pay. And special teams has not been an issue all night, all season. And I mean, even the kick returns, like, they got some nice kick returns, even the Chiefs. Like, the special teams has been a strength, really. And Ryan Suckup was perfect on his kicks. Like, shout out to Ryan Suckup. Still has only missed 1 kick all year. Knock on wood, but still has only missed 1 kick all year. But the special teams just sucked tonight, and it was a big reason why they lost. It's not the reason, but it's a big reason why they lost. And the start of the game set the tone. You knew exactly what type of game this was going to be a minute in.
As we start to put a bow on this pleasant 45 minutes of podcasting thus far, let me ask you the $1 million question. Back to the offense really quickly. What did you make of the night for Byron Leftwich? It's obviously really easy for a lot of people to point the finger at the play caller when they see a few things that they don't like. I know we talked about the offense and the way that they were able to kind of find a rhythm tonight, put it all together despite a few mistakes. But people are still calling for his head in week 4. I know that to this point in the season, you have defended Byron Leftwich's game plan. Even though you haven't been the biggest fan of it, you still can appreciate what he has brought to the table. What did you think about his game plan against Kansas City tonight?
Yeah, it was up and down. The tough thing about it, game plans kind of get thrown out the window when you're down, what like the Bucs were.
Yeah, your script is absolutely ruined.
Yeah,
when you have the start that they did.
You really have to deviate from your game plan. I mean, they're down 21-3. Like, you really have to deviate from your game plan when you're down 3 scores. It's difficult. So it's difficult to, I think, analyze the exact game plan. That being said, I thought the play calling was fine. Like I didn't have a big issue with it, and that's mostly because they passed the ball most of the time because they had to. But like, I'm gonna criticize the same thing. Like, early on, it wasn't fine. Like, they clearly wanted to establish the run, and it wasn't gonna happen. I do think they need to get a guy like Mike Evans involved a little bit earlier in the game. I like the way they used him tonight. I think that's how he should be continued to be used. But I think that they need to just do that a little bit earlier. Why does it take an entire quarter for Mike Evans to enter the game essentially with a big catch? The use of Russell Gage to me is puzzling. I think he needs to be a bigger part of the offense. But a lot of it, again, it's execution. Did Byron Leftwich not read the blitz and get the ball fumbled? Like, that's not on him. It's tough. Did Byron Leftwich hold Chris Jones to get a holding penalty? No, like he didn't. Like, it's on execution of the players too. So I I have a tough time blaming it all on Leftwich because I think it has a lot to do 50-50. And this offense looked the best it has all season. So to me, it's tough to pin this all on Leftwich for any offensive struggles when they look the best they have all year. It's clear that when this team is healthy, this offense does change a little bit in a good way. So I'm curious to see how it looks when they're not starting off a minute in down 7-0.
Let's go ahead and wrap this thing up on a positive note. Bucs are going to go ahead and drop 40 on Atlanta next week. I mean, I'm telling
you. Atlanta's defense is looking better.
Maybe they are looking better. Maybe they won't quite drop 40 on them. But if we get a defensive takeaway or maybe we get a pick six, we can appreciate over 30 points.
I just need the defense to do something. I mean, how this defense responds will be a big key for the rest of the season to me.
Well, and I think a lot of what Kansas City did tonight is something that they're going to have to be ready for with a quarterback like Marcus Mariota in Atlanta. That short passing game is what has made them pretty effective on the offensive side of the ball so far.
Yeah, and I don't think Atlanta's a good football team. This to be clear, we're not doing the Atlanta preview right now. But I mean, they got Cordero Patterson, they got Drake London, and Marcus Mariota, a guy who can burn you with his legs. He was 7 for 19 today with a pick. He sucked. But they still won. So,
Cordero Patterson, though, with this run defense being the way that it is, we'll talk about it on the preview show. We're not going to do the pod before the pod. And, of course, we'll talk a little bit more about it tomorrow as well with former Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Sean King. We'll get his take on the Week 4 game, and we'll look ahead at the division matchup next week against Atlanta. But, yeah, lots to take in from this one. But I do want to wrap it up with a positive note. We talk about the offense, and I joked about them hanging 40 on Atlanta next week. But with that being said, I do think that they finally unleash something next week. And whether Atlanta's ready or not for it, I think we're going to see some production. I think this trend is going to continue, and I think the Bucs are getting ready to stack up some wins. I'm still confident in this squad. I think a lot of the people freaking out are jumping ship a bit too early.
Happens every year. Look, this team lost 38-3, and then a few months later won the Super Bowl. It happens. It happens. So, we'll see what happens. It's a long season. It is a long season, and but they have 3 winnable games coming up, and I think those games are key to where they're going to be this season. I think you need to win all 3. I don't think, if you were 3-1, maybe you could have dropped one of those games. But I think the fact that you're 2-2, I think you need to win all 3. So, 2 of the games are on the road, so you need to take care of business at home next week. And like I said, we'll talk about that later on in the week. But obviously a disappointing outcome tonight. The offense fought hard. I mean, this is a 10-point loss. Imagine, does it feel like a 10-point loss?
No, it feels like a 20-point loss,
but maybe even more. But it's a 10-point loss. The offense battled, and honestly, I don't even think it was Kansas City taking their foot off the gas. They really didn't take their foot off the gas, and the offense battled, and the defense needs to be better. So that's the bottom line.
It's a 10-point loss to one of the best teams in the NFL, and they still spotted them a touchdown. You know what I'm saying? Like context is important. And as we come full circle here,
really spotted them 2 touchdowns.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. We're not going to sit here and do the what if game, but that's exactly what we're going to do to wrap things up. Listen, before we go, it has been a rough week for a lot of people, especially in South Florida. Our thoughts, all of our prayers and our support go to the people in Southwest Florida right now. Sarasota, Fort Myers, Northport. I mean, it has not been a fun week. We did not do a game preview show this week. I decided to pack up and evacuate for the hurricane. Probably didn't need to because, to be honest, Tampa dodged a bullet. And I don't think the TV broadcast was stressing that enough tonight. They really tried to make it seem like this was a Tampa Bay issue. But, folks, I can tell you, Tampa was fine. We had a couple of downed trees, a couple of damage that can be fixed. But the damage that took place in South Florida is something that you need to be aware of and look into some local relief funds. I wish I had one I could link in the chat right now. I just haven't really, I wasn't really prepared for it like that. But those folks need all the help they can get right now. And our deepest condolences and thoughts go out to them, because it's just tough out here. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's trying to live their life. These are fellow human beings. And it's important to remember that, losing a football game is tough, but people lost their homes. People lost loved ones, pets, businesses. So just be mindful of that, and keep those people in your thoughts and prayers, because it has not been fun. Hopefully you and yours made it out of the area okay. And, if you're in that area, of course, we support you, and we are thinking about you. We are together, Florida strong. I need to get one of those t-shirts, because I know this is a very serious topic, but those shirts were kind of slick.
Yeah, they're pretty nice, and obviously ditto, everything that you said, and it's unfortunate, and obviously watching everything here from Pennsylvania, I kind of have a different perspective on it, and I can't even imagine what like you and James and everybody, a lot of our listeners that are in Florida have been going through, and whether it's, like you said, friends or loved ones or just people that are affected by this. Some Bucs fans couldn't go to the game tonight because either something happened or they had to take care of something due to this storm. So the devastation has been shocking. It's been awful, and I hope everything I hope to today move forward and just build stronger. I think you can't really forget it, but you just gotta move forward and do the best you can. But yeah, if you guys find a way to have a donation fund, there's a lot of things. Like if you buy one of them shirts, and Florida Strong shirts, on NFL, I know we're sort of promoting the NFL shop here, but you buy one of those shirts, I believe like 100% of the proceeds go to the fund. Because like you said, those people need it. And at the end of the day, we talk about football, and that's so insignificant to what actually happened this week to the state of Florida, and really, to a lot of more places too. I mean, this was a huge storm. And
Don Harvey throwing it down on the table. $20 super chat says, please give that to your relief fund. Go Bucs. I will definitely make sure that happens, friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you a lot. And it's like I said, football is so insignificant. It's secondary to whatever is happening, and we just hope that anyone who's affected by this is able to come out of this stronger.
We love you guys, each and every person who tuned in tonight. If you're listening on the replay, if you're watching right now, if you've listened to the podcast for the past couple of years, or you just found us this season, thanks to our friend Mr. Bucs Nation, we truly do appreciate the support. And look out for each other, because it is tough out here. With all of that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's just about going to do it for this episode of the Cannon Fire podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the show this week. Shout out to everybody in the live chat. Willie Beeman, the moderator, holding it down. Don Harvey, Richard T, Black Dragon, G Vegas, Eric, P5 Chen, Buck Wild, Bucks Time 12, TB12 Goat Man, and anybody else that I may have missed. G Vegas, the other moderator, also holding it down. We truly appreciate you guys. Check out the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And, of course, Tampa Bay Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_daily, the #1 Buccaneer fan page on Instagram. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. Check out his written work at BucsNation.com. What you got cooking this week?
Obviously going to be looking over the predictions. A lot of them are going to be rough. I actually think our boss, basically Gil, almost hit the nail on the head. He said, give Mahomes 4 touchdowns and over 300 yards or something. So shout out Gil. He struggled this year with the predictions, but it seemed like he hit the nail on the head with that one.
Way to bring the nose up on it, man. Hey, it's an easy bet. Listen, it's an easy bet any given week. That's all I'm going to say about it. That's enough of the greatness that is Pat Mahomes. I'm sure people are tired of hearing about it. I'm certainly tired of talking about it. But unfortunately, we saw it on display tonight. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, you can find myself on social media, Instagram and Twitter at Rhetticus, RHETT, If you follow me, I will follow you back. That's the show. We'll talk to you later on this week with our co-host, Sean King, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback. We'll get his thoughts on week 4 and the division matchup ahead. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off for my co-host, Evan Wanish. We'll talk to you in the next one. Until then, and as always, go Bucs.